Hey, Triad Church Network, Brad Wright coming to you with just what I think is one of the most valuable resources and times and people that we're going to offer our Association of Churches this year. And so we're going to jump right into it. This is Michael Miller. Michael has been involved with church ministry for a long time. You may know him by a couple other things that he's involved with. One is a roofing company. He owns several other companies that do some things like that. But if you live in the Kernersville area, he may look really familiar to you, and that is because for the last, how many years? 15 years. Michael has been Santa Claus in the Kernersville Kernersville Christmas Parade. And so love that, man. And you can see we're in the early stages of the beard getting to where it needs to be for Christmas.
We are. It's an annual growth. It's an annual growth.
I'm so jealous, by the way. If mine would curl like yours, I might think about it long term.
So here's the secret.
Oh boy. Okay. This is bonus material.
It's a secret. Grow old. That's it. That's the secret. Just get old, and there it is. So.
Well, that's great. But we as much as fun as we want to have, and listen, we met last week and just thoroughly enjoyed our conversation with one another. We really want to bring you as our churches what we think is probably one of the more significant topics that our churches can consider, and that comes to those moments that we need to be prepared for safety and security in our churches.
100%.
And so, Michael, if you'll do me a favor, if you'll give our churches some of your background, some of your expertise and training so that they know I didn't just meet Santa Claus and he said he could help with something. But what are some of the ways that you have really, here's how I think of it. What are some of the things that God's brought you through to get you to a place where this is an area where you can help churches?
Yeah, a great question, and I really appreciate that phrasing. Mm-hmm. I do. It's interesting. I tell people, we joke about being Santa, right? I tell people I traded one uniform for another, right? I'm an old Air Force Master Sergeant. My specialty was physical security. I worked in military police, law enforcement, but I had a specialty for air-based ground defense, which in the Air Force, we were the guys who were in charge of all security across the spectrum. I was very fortunate in my career. I got to work nuclear security. I got to work security for alert on-duty B-52s, F-16 fighters. I got to work on a presidential support team for Jimmy Carter. That's how old I am. All right, so, and so it's always been just a heart of who I am. I truly believe that on the face of this earth, there are three kinds of people. The masses, they're sheep. We're called to be sheep under God's word, and that's a wonderful thing. You're going through life, and you're just taking advantage of your life. You're not taking advantage of other people. You're taking advantage of your best life. And then, unfortunately, there are wolves, and the wolves prey on sheep. And then that third type we refer to as a sheepdog. Now, the sheepdog, in my definition, has the same propensity of violence that the wolf does. The difference is the master whom they serve. That's the difference. Because when the wolf comes calling on the flock, someone has to be willing to step in, stand up, and stand against. And that's that sheepdog.
And I think a lot of our pastors are aware of and focused on theologically doing that with their churches. What's being taught in their Sunday school classes, what's being presented from the pulpit, and those sorts of things. And I think in a heart for the sheep, sometimes our pastors can almost take a back seat on some of the other things because we want to invite people in.
100%.
We want whoever 100%. Lives around us to know this is a gathering of Christians who love each other and love our community. And so then it's, okay, we've got to walk this line, though, of there are wolves out there who would love nothing more than to take advantage of that situation.
And here's the thing, like in my previous life, my career, the idea was simple. Bad guys, stay away. If you're a bad person, stay away, because if you don't, there are consequences. When I became straight up civilian and gave my life to Christ, and church security was just it wasn't even a thing back in the day, right? Whoever dreamed you had to have a church security. But for me, it's always been a part of my life. Therefore, when I was in church, that church had security, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I learned early on that it's very, very different. Church security is not the same as the security that I performed, corporately or professionally or with the military. And here's the big difference. Bad guys stay away over there. In the church, the only way for a bad guy to become a good guy is to be in church. So bad guys are welcome. They just can't misbehave.
Yeah.
Right? They just can't misbehave. And it's funny. I talk to a lot of pastors, and in my role now, the Faith-Based Security Network. I am the North Carolina state leader for the Faith-Based Security Network. We're the largest association of church security providers across the country. Our goal is to integrate professional volunteers, vendors, to bring together a cohesive concept of how to protect the church. Right? And so I talk to a lot of different pastors, a lot of different lay leaders, and I'll always have them say, well, God will protect us. God will protect us. Well, yes, but I always refer back to Nehemiah 4:9, where it says that, the leaders prayed and posted guards.
Right.
So it's a combination of the two. You can't just, sit by idly with the concept of God will protect us without being somewhat proactive.
Right.
Now, that does not mean you have to put bouncers on the wall, right? That's not the name of the game, right? And when you and I talked last week, one of the things I mentioned to you is that my team, I lead my own personal team, right? And our ministry, and that's what we are. We're not a security team. We're a ministry. We're a safety ministry. We have things for medical and security, so we do both, right? And in an aging population where a lot of churches are aging,
Right.
medical's a big thing.
Right.
Medical's a big thing. But our team's motto is ministry first. Ministry first. And like I was saying, right, our team, my guys, and the churches that I work with, if you're going to be a sheepdog, your mission is to protect your flock. If you're going to protect your flock, the best way to protect your flock is to know your flock. And the best way to know your flock is to integrate with your flock. So you don't stand up against the wall with your arms crossed and stare people down. It's stand out, smile, shake hands, say hi. Become the best greeter that you can.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
it's just, so that's where the whole foundation starts.
Right.
If that makes any sense.
No, I think that's incredibly helpful. And so then you talked about your team, and you talked about a little bit of the philosophy of that team. What would you say for most churches should be, and what is your definition then of what is that team? What are you actually trying to train people to protect?
Great question. And I tell people we really look for two protection points.
Yeah.
The first is most critical, and that's people, right? We're looking to protect our people. It's that simple. The second is the entity of the church. Now notice I don't say the stuff of the church, right? If the bad guys pull up in their truck and they walk in with AK-47s, say, hey, we want to take your computers, your furniture, but we promise we won't hurt anybody, I'll help them load the truck, right? It's like, it's just stuff. It's just stuff.
Yeah.
But if you want to come in and harm people, that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
And if you want to hurt the entity of the church. Now, the entity of the church becomes almost an internal protection concept. In this day and age, with the litigious mindset that we have, we look for, we help churches develop, principles, policies, and concepts that will protect the church, reduce the degree of liability, the exposure to risk, those things that are the abstracts.
Right.
The abstracts.
Right.
So that's a little more challenging sometimes.
It is a little more challenging, but I think we're able to help churches think about those things really. It doesn't have to be as complicated as sometimes we make it. But I also know that's a little bit of an individual conversation with each church to say, hey, what level do you need this type of protection? And again, individual insurance companies come into play, what they require and what they disallow. All those sorts of things have to be addressed. But we'd love to have those conversations with our churches and love to be able to provide that support along the way.
Yeah.
one of the really foundational principles and sort of little acronyms that I'd always heard was DLR, don't look right.
100%. If you see something, say something.
Now,
the DLR.
So here's where I think some of our churches that breakdown happens. They see something, and I think one of two things clicks in a person who's been in church their whole life. It sort of clicks in their mind this way. One is, well, am I just being judgmental? There's that fear sometimes that people have of maybe I'm just judging that person based on my, so they want to. It's somewhat of a spiritual response, but it's that kind of guilty conscience response. The other is, well, the only person I know to tell is my pastor.
Yeah.
And if I go to him and I feel like maybe I'm ratting out some, whatever. When you think about a system for, hey, just basic principle doesn't look right. When you think about, hey, steps, kind of a filter that somebody could have, what are the one or two things that you go, hey, this, then this, here's how to think clearly about, I'm just not sure.
So, again, great question. So, I teach and operate on a thing called the Cooper Color Code.
Okay.
So it's kind of a 5-step Cooper Color Code. This was developed by a retired Marine Corps colonel. I was Air Force, I'll give him credit. But, so the first level is white. So if you're in the level white, all right, as a security level, you're unaware. You're basically not paying attention. Mm-hmm. And again, most sheep operate there, and that's the way they should, right?
Yeah.
You're going through life. But then people who do pay attention, people who have a heightened cognizant awareness of what's going on, that's yellow, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm one of those people. I live kind of in state of yellow. If I don't know that I'm ever in the white state, just because it's just I'm constantly aware, right? If you see something, right, and if you're in the position of security, then you have to address it. Mm-hmm. And in the church, that's a smile, that's a handshake, that's a walk up. Again, we go back to Proverbs, right? A gentle word turns away wrath, right? Our concern, my biggest concern, is not the van pulling up and the 4 guys jumping out, all dressed in black with masks and rifles. I don't worry about that guy, right? Yeah. Because if he does, I see him, that's an immediate known threat, right? So on the color scale, that's an immediate red. I mean, that's just like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts, right? My bigger concern really is the family who's going through a personal trauma. Dad's lost his job. Mom and dad are fighting. They're divorcing. They're looking at child custody. They're trying to split their possessions. Who knows, right? We see people on Sunday mornings, Wednesday nights. The rest of the week, we don't know what's happening.
Right.
And that's why I go back to, if you know your sheep, right?
Yeah.
If you're standing in the lobby, you're standing in the classroom, and you're talking to people, when they come in, and you can, again, DLR, it just doesn't look right.
Right.
They look stressed. They look tired. They look agitated, right? You walk up with a handshake and a smile and say, hey, how you doing?
Right.
Man, it's so good to see you again. How are you? You may take that person, man or woman, who's escalating up and ratcheting up because of the stresses of life, and just by addressing them with a smile and a handshake, you may de-escalate them down. So we spend a lot of time with de-escalation techniques, because it is about how to bring someone's explosiveness down, right? Which is a really Christian thing to do. Again, I go back to a gentle word turns away wrath, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the name of the game for us. Yeah. And so,
Well, and I think what's so helpful about the conversation that we had last week, and what I think we have the opportunity then to bring to our churches, is this idea that what we want to see, children's areas, youth ministry, events and meetings and gatherings with students, and then just the Sunday morning regular gathering, somebody has to be at least in that yellow range.
Exactly.
One person's got
100%.
And then if your church can be both in the documents as well as in the procedures,
right.
If your church can have that sheepdog,
exactly,
just that guy who says, hey, I'll take this on, and then everybody who's a regular part of the church can look and go, hey, if I think something doesn't look, I know I can tell that guy.
I don't have to go to my pastor. I don't have to burden the pastor. I don't have to put myself in a position where the pastor may think I'm being judgmental, as you said, right?
Yeah.
But just go to that guy.
Right.
And that could be a man or a woman. I'm very fortunate on my team. I have both men and women.
That's great.
And it works out really, really well for us. But then that person can, again, make that, intercepts.
Right.
Yeah.
With some training.
With some training.
So now here's one thing I want to
With some
throw
training.
at you. Let's say you've got the opposite.
Okay.
Let's say you've got somebody in your church who is very excited about security, who is, and is more than willing to tell anyone who will listen. I'm carrying.
I'm carrying.
I'm carrying.
Yeah, I'm carrying.
Because there's a de-escalation of the person who comes in agitated, and there's also the de-escalation of the dude that just wants
to be the de-escalator.
Who, if his wife would let him, he'd wear the both sides and the shoulder holster, the whole thing.
So I'll be honest with you. Again, right? I teach specifically for my two teams because I run two campuses. That guy doesn't even get on my team.
Yeah.
I mean, he just really doesn't. Just because, right? You have to have the ability, and I will tell you from personal experience, right? In the church.
Yeah.
In the church. You can have a husband and wife going through an ugly separation, and she comes to church, and he comes in on a Sunday morning, and this is personal.
Right.
This is personal. He rides his Harley up to the front doors, gets off, walks into the lobby, and is yelling at her. And people around kind of back up and they circle, and people don't want to get involved. And this is probably going to hurt, but I have to do this, And you step in between and say, hey, I'm so sorry. Can I help you? How can I listen to you today? And when he starts thumping you in the chest and calling you not nice names, and you've got her tucked behind your back physically, where you're that, you have to be willing to be the guy who can take that thump and just keep saying, I'm sorry, how can I help you?
Right.
And not explode up.
Immediately,
And
right.
now in the back of your head, you're going, but right.
That's so good.
And that's that. The other thing, I know a lot of churches do concerts and events, right? And my church is certainly no exception to that. We do a lot of big things, and we've had people come in carrying guns. Now that's a whole nother. The gun concept is another conversation, right? Do you carry? Do you not carry? Do you allow? Do you not allow? Second Amendment. I get all that. There's a process to go through to protect the entity of the church.
Right.
But we had a thing a year ago. One of my guys hit me on the radio and said, we had a big open public Christian concert. People from our church and more people not from our church, so I didn't know them.
Right.
And they goes, hey, I think this guy's carrying a gun. Can you? So okay, let me go. And that's the other thing. I really want to have two people because you never want to approach anybody by yourself.
Oh, right.
But you don't have two of you approaching. You have one stay back to provide cover because two can be intimidating. But you just have the one with the one guy watching. But again, that's training. But I looked at the guy and said, excuse me, sir, hi, my name is Michael. Welcome to the church. We're so glad you came tonight. Can I talk to you for a moment? And this guy looks at me from top to bottom. I mean, he's just looking, right? He's probably in his early 50s. Is there a problem? Well, in my head, I'm going, there is now. See, there wasn't. This is a nice conversation. But all of a sudden now, and I'm like, well, as a matter of fact, I'm just kind of curious, sir. I said, you may not have seen it, but our building is posted, no weapons. One of my guys noticed that you may possibly have a gun on your hip, and I'd like to just ask you if you do, if you would please take it back out of your car. And he goes, I haven't carried a concealed weapon. I haven't carried concealed. I'm allowed to. I said, well, actually, you don't.
Right.
And so if
Well, and that's where you get into the policies of your church. Do you post?
Exactly.
So I don't want you to give away
No,
all your gold
but
here because I really do.
Happens,
So here's what I want our churches and I want our pastors to hear. We've got churches of all sizes that go from rural churches to downtown churches, all those sorts of things. And so what we want to be able to do is take some of what you already know, and I think you've given our folks a great picture of your expertise as well as your experiences and what God's brought you through. To say, hey, we want to provide for our churches
Absolutely.
a couple opportunities for us to provide, hey, just entry level. We don't have a security team at all.
Exactly.
We've never had one. We want to provide some kind of training, so we want to provide that level, then some type of intermediate level where, hey, we've got a couple people, but we'd like to get better. And then that advanced level of, hey, we've had a team for a while, but we really need to improve what we're doing.
Absolutely.
So we're going to put those dates out. We're going to work that out for you and me, and we're going to put those dates out to our churches. We want to try to get the training to you before you have to be on stage on a regular basis, and the beard is full. No, but we really want to help our churches before we really get into the huge swing of fall and folks start coming back and that sort of thing. And so here's what I want to make sure that our folks know. We want to help with not only the physical training, the procedural backdrop to that,
Right.
and then the documentation behind it that helps it protect the entities as well.
And that starts with simply a facility walkthrough.
Right.
That starts right there.
Right.
You know, facility walkthrough,
Yes,
and with
absolutely.
your people, and so yeah, I'd be happy to. You know, you talked about before. Right now, we're going into summertime. One of the big issues that we've had to deal with through the years, VBS.
Yeah.
VBS, because that's our most precious resource are our children. I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
You know, and so yeah, it's a good time.
Well, that's great. And so, churches, I want to let you know that these resources are coming. I wanted you to meet Michael, have an opportunity to hear his heart, not only to see these things be put into place well, but to continue to see it as a ministry. And as, listen, if nothing else, to be treated as an individual, as to be treated as with dignity and respect, to know that God made this person. And gosh, you don't know what they've been through, and you don't know what they did the night before and what they're dealing with. So we want to be able to respond well in those situations. Ultimately, to have a chance to share the gospel with them if necessary and if that's
100%.
possible.
Remember, bad guys are welcome here.
That's right. That's right. You just can't misbehave.
Just can't misbehave.
Churches, we're so glad to bring this to you, and I'm excited about the potential of this partnership and what we can do to offer this to our churches. So look for more information coming to your inbox soon.
Look forward. Ho, ho, ho.